You're listening to Female Founders with Claire Bartlett, the podcast that tells you what it is really like to be a female founder in today's world. We share invaluable insights through personal journeys and real-life business experiences, highlighting the highs and the lows so you can move forward in your business with ease. I am passionate to share with you the realities of business and give you the strategies and simple steps you need to truly succeed with your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders podcast. Managing your business finances can feel overwhelming, but Xero simplifies it all and gives you the power to keep your books in order and your mind on growth. Xero have offered an amazing 50% discount on your first 3 months with them. So if you'd like to take advantage of this amazing deal, just search refer.xero.com/female founders or follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to give this show a follow to make sure you never miss an episode and share it with any incredible female founders you know. But for now, let's jump into this week's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Female Founders podcast. Today, we are talking about a really interesting subject that I know so many of you are not utilising properly, and that is PR. I'm joined by the gorgeous Rebecca May, who's here from RM Publicity, and we're going to be talking about her journey to where she is today, but also how you guys can start your PR journeys. So, Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's very exciting.
I love it for a Friday afternoon.
Absolutely.
So, First of all, do you want to start by telling us how you got into this space? Is there a pivotal sort of person or moment in your life that has led you to this path on your career?
I would say that was, I've kind of sort of framing how I sort of got into the industry. It was just my passions were business studies and art. So sort of marrying the two, PR is really quite creative. So that was sort of how I got onto the path of studying marketing and PR. And then I guess a pivotal moment is how my journey and kind of path sort of progressed and started. If I could point it down to one thing, it would probably be a bit morbid actually. My granddad passed away and I forgot I had an interview. It was a paid internship. And that was like the catalyst for my PR career, because if it wasn't for that and going to that interview, I would never have, I would not be here probably. Who knows? You just don't know where life takes you. And my granddad passed away, and then and it was sort of like literally the aftermath. Everyone had just got home, and I said to my parents, I was like, "Oh my God, I've got this interview in London tomorrow. Like, what the fuck? I'm going to cancel it." You know, also out of respect for the family, like, "I'll see you now, I'm off," 12 hours later. And they were like, "No, Becky, everything's fine here. You're going to be, a day going to London and back. You've got to go. Just crack on. We are fine." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And I think because, the anticipation of going to interviews and thinking about, oh God, the anticipation and the anxiousness and everything, I literally did not give a shit. I was in a zone. I went down on the train and I smashed the interview. I met a couple of sort of managers there. It was a luxury fashion house, like quite a big one. And I really, really did well. And I think it's because I just didn't have that like pressure on myself. I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? Like, something really bad has just happened. And it puts things into perspective. And then I just thought, okay, I'll go. I don't really care, even though I obviously do care. But in that mindset, it's like, things are in perspective here. And I just literally breezed it. And then I had to go back because everyone liked me. And then I had to go back to sort of do not a week's trial. It was almost like a pre-trial. Like, I'll just come. I work in the design department and just see how you get on and stuff. And it was like they were testing me to see if everyone sort of liked me. And I thought, it's the summer holidays. I'm at uni. I don't have anywhere to live. I'm at home in Wolverhampton. And I obviously didn't say that. I was like, yeah, sure. So I said to mum and dad, I was like, I've got to go to London for a week, but I've got nowhere to live. And, like, my parents like really, really supportive. I thought, oh my God, I haven't got like £1,000 to spend on a hotel for a week. My dad was like, yeah, no worries. within like 3 days, I think that was like a Thursday, and by like Sunday night, I was in a hotel in Covent Garden thinking, okay, I'm here for I'm here for the week now. He just did it for me, bless him. So I had really supportive parents. I remember walking up and down Covent Garden that week thinking, okay, well, this could be a big moment. And I got the job, and I was there for like a whole year. Then I freelanced for a bit, and that was the moment, me deciding to actually go to an interview, crazy as it is, that put me on that trajectory that I'm here.
I think that's amazing that you had so much going on personally at that point in your life that it was so easy for you to have not gone to that interview, and so many people wouldn't have gone to that interview. And like you say, it's sliding doors moment. You just don't know what would have happened to your life if you hadn't attended. But through the support, and sounds like, the repeated support of your parents throughout that part, putting you up in London for a week, God bless them. And look where you are now. So I know that you can't talk about it, but you've had your PR company for quite a long time now. How many years is it?
13 plus years.
13 years. That's amazing. And you've got some quite, highbrow celebrity clients. I know you can't say who, but
it's top secret, Claire.
Top secret, I know. But it's amazing what you've achieved in that time. And it all goes down to that one interview, really, that put you on the whole path.
Exactly. Like you say, a sliding doors moment, you just never know, because also, however I was feeling at the time, out of respect for the family, it's not something that you just, just go hop on a train back to London after 12 hours and, obviously, family upheaval and, obviously, how it all feels and whatnot. And it was just something that I was encouraged to do. And I'm glad that I was encouraged to do it, because like you say, you just don't know where life takes you.
I love that. So obviously you found your passion, and what I found really interesting actually about what you said is that PR is actually really creative. And I don't think many people would necessarily think that word relates to PR. So can you sort of explain a bit more about why you feel that way about PR, and how we can then start, changing our mindset around it?
Absolutely. It's all about ideas generation, thinking outside of the box, thinking creatively, how you use your, mind and imagination to formulate campaigns. And a PR campaign can be a very sort of simplistic, seamless strategy, all the way to a very complex creative process where there is a lot of elements involved, all the way through to sort of visuals and sort of written comms. So it's a very creative role, and you have to really put your thinking hat on to do well. That's my opinion.
To stand out. So do you feel like, obviously the audience to this podcast are mainly, at the beginning of their journey or in the first few years of their business, and probably quite likely at the beginning of their PR journeys. Do you think that how they would have to sort of think about it and what they would have to do is different to how you have to do it today for your clients? Or is the process always the same?
Well, the landscape changes constantly. This is why, I've been doing this for like 20 plus years as a sort of independent, agency owner and publicist for 13 myself. But the industry changes so often, and the dynamics changes, and the different teams move around, and different things that are sort of formulated differently, that you have to always kind of keep moving with the times and learning new things. And there are different tech that comes in, different social media platforms, different ways of PRing. But at the end of the day, it's all those different channels are all PR, because it's just how you talk to your customer. And PR today is actually more complex than it was when I started out, because they're actually, I know everyone says that, print is dying, but if you think about it from the point of view that there actually are more media outlets than there ever was, it's just all fragmented into different spaces. So I'd say to someone starting out now, I think a lot of people are quite scared to sort of, whether they're working with a PR or not, actually, they're sometimes scared to even just speak to a journalist. And they're not scary people. Yes, they might be wanting to find a story, but they're just doing their job. And so if you kind of guide them in the right direction, and you're sort of, honest and frank about it, then you will have a good relationship and a two-way dialogue. If you're trying to sort of hide things about your profile, or there is a blatant story, but you're trying to sort of like push the narrative somewhere else. If you're not experienced to navigate that, that's where things can kind of go wrong a bit, and you need a bit of like guidance. But simplistically, you can reach out to editors and journalists to sort of pitch. I think it's people that are scared to do it, and also I think people are also scared to like tell part of their story as well. So it's because they're not sure sort of how to do it and how to like angle it, and if it's something that they like want to share, or have like the encouragement of say a team member or a colleague or a friend that yet put yourself out there, share your vulnerabilities and your story. And that's, I think, what holds people back when they're like in their sort of infancy of their careers.
Yeah, I think PR's a funny one. I think it's, in every area of business, we have the fear of the unknown. But I think the PR space is one of the most feared spaces, because you just don't have a clue where to start. I mean, when I was on the beginning of my sort of journey with PR, I genuinely felt like I had no idea how to, I know everything that I wanted to say, but how to actually write that in an email or a press release, or like all of these things,
and articulate it.
Yeah, I just did not know how to do it. And I didn't even really know what a press release is, or how to utilize a press release. So, there is so much out there in this space. But I also think that when you say the words PR, people think you mean only, a newspaper article or a magazine, for instance. And I think that's what it was many years ago. But actually, like you said, PR is your social media. It's being guests on podcasts. It's anything where you're gaining visibility. And when you look at it as that much broader space, actually that isn't so scary, because you already know social media.
Yeah.
And you listen to podcasts, so you know what people might be looking for. So I think it's easy to be, too scared to even consider going into that space. But it's such a powerful space for a young business to be gaining 100%. That visibility.
Absolutely.
So if somebody wants to try and gain their first bit of PR, how would you recommend them just to start looking into the space and getting used to the space?
What I would suggest is looking at your core messaging first and foremost. If you can articulate, say, in one sentence who you are, what you do, then that tells other people what essentially you're about. So when you're reaching out to a journalist, make sure you have your messaging nailed 100%. And then also immerse yourself in the media. So what I find quite ironic is that for lots of people, they don't read the titles they want to be in. So if you don't read them, how do you know what stories they like, or what they're not covering, which tells you what they don't like? It's and then you get familiar with different sort of styles, house styles. Every publication has a different house style. So I would just say, someone starting out, find 5 of those publications, whether they're online or offline, that you really want to be in, where you see your target audience at. Try and sort of mix it up a bit of mainstream and sort of maybe a bit more niche to your industry, and actually just read those magazines. And then you'll naturally, because the mind goes, oh my god, damn, I could have been in that, or oh, I have a really good idea for this. And then you kind of like have your picture in your head already then. Whereas if you're like, rabbit stuck in headlights, oh God, what do I email about? Or, I'm not really sure who to contact, or what to pitch, what angle, and what's current, what have they already, covered, not covered. You have no clue if you don't know. So that's just the homework. And I think there's so many mixed messages out in the world today about PR that it can be very confusing for sort of a newcomer. So I just honestly just try and forget all the bullshit that you sort of hear and you might see, because I just think that just gives us like fear of missing out. You see it on social media, and you kind of like get that like trend, like, oh, my competitor's doing this, and oh, I've got this advice because this Instagrammer who's an expert says this to do that. Just take all that with a pinch of salt, because they probably aren't doing it themselves, and they're just doing it just for views as well. So
Yeah.
I think if you try and take as much as advice from all these sort of so-called experts, then it can kind of get you down a path where you actually might be doing the right thing. So it's just being sort of practical and like level-headed with that whole area as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. When you said about finding the right publication or the right space, whether it's an actual written word or podcast, etc. But actually think about where your ideal client is, because I don't think people do that. I think if you ask pretty much anyone in business, or what's your ideal, where do you want to be? They all say Forbes. Everybody says Forbes. But how many of these people actually read Forbes? And how many people actually know who the sort of clientele of Forbes is? People just think it sounds, and yes, it is very impressive when people are, mentioned in Forbes, but only if that's actually where your clients are and you're trying to actually reach that. And I think that's something, again, that people forget about so often. Actually look about where your ideal clients are, and then focus on those, get to know how they, what articles they release, and like you say, what they don't. There's so much information in that space alone. But just get to understand. And also, I think I probably picked this up from you. Every article in a magazine says who wrote that article. So you can then start to learn, okay, well, that's the sort of article that I'm interested in, that I want to sort of have about me. And you can go and follow them on Twitter or wherever else, and then, start building that relationship with them. And I mean, that's just golden, but something that you would not think about doing.
But it's also so obvious, though, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But unless you know it, you don't know what you don't know, and if you're not even reading it, you don't even know that it's got the names in there. You don't know how they write it. So it all comes down to the absolute basics of reading or listening to the podcast, or whatever it is.
Exactly.
I think another area that people get really stuck on, or they use it as an excuse and a block, is, oh, well, I don't have 10,000 followers, so no one's going to be interested in me yet. But that's not the case, is it, at all?
No, not at all. I mean, I didn't really develop my personal brand until like 3 or 4 months ago. So I'd gone through my whole career not doing that, and I've been in Forbes 3 times and Fortune once, but I've been in that world for my industry for so long. I'm kind of like more sort of in the leadership space in that area now. So I write about like leadership styles and reputation management, crisis comms, and things like that. That's where I get asked to comment. And you don't have to have a large social media following at all. I think that's where a lot of noise comes in. If you've got the sort of the right attitude, and you've got the right mindset, and you're hungry, and you've got a really clear message, and in some areas, you obviously you will need the right qualification if you're wanting to comment on certain stories. If you tick all the right boxes, whatever industry you're in, you don't need any social media following at all. You can have 0. It's just all about how you process and how you sort of apply that PR.
Yeah, I love that. So everybody stop using that as an excuse, because you can get PR at any point in your journey if you make the right connections, and you make that right first intro. So talking about that, how is the best way for people to potentially find leads, or find these first ins to the spaces that they're looking at?
I would get on X, formerly known as Twitter.
I hate that. Nobody calls it X, do they? They just don't. It will never ever.
No, I know. I think it's because everyone, says the word tweet still, so it just like goes hand in hand, and it's one of those words that it's in the dictionary, isn't it, for life, and it will never leave us.
X.
So
rubbish name. Anyway, sorry.
So get on X, and if you can, get verified on there, because you can then message people as well, and you'll have more power on the platform. Follow your key key editors, your key sort of target journalists, or your, the publications that are in your sort of, area of target, and just sort of see what they're writing about and what's on their feed, and keep a track of journalists, and comment back to journalists, and then they'll put their requests on their, on X. So then if you're following the right people, so I get loads on mine because it's on my feed. So that's just sort of one way, but I think that can also take you down a road where you're like very, very reactive to things. And I think when people are really reactive, they kind of lose their strategy and like lose their way. So you always need to bring it back and think, because it's not just about getting XXX hits. It's about like, is this story like right for me? So I would always think about, where am I spending my energy? Because PR is a lot of effort. Whether it's effort to get that hit, or whether it's effort to write the piece that has maybe easily come to you, but then you've got to write 1,000 words to then get the coverage. So in any respect, it's effort. So you need to spend your time very wisely, to ensure that it's not, consuming your whole day. That's what I'd advise.
And when you join X, I hate saying that word. When you join X and you are, using it in this purpose, is it important for you to actually be posting on there yourself as well, and building, actually using it for what it is? Or can you just be on there to find the connections and the leads?
I would just be on there to find the connections and the leads. I don't really use mine. If you probably do a scroll, there's probably about 6 or 7 articles that I've posted. I just make sure there's something on there that is no more than 2 months old, just so you don't look like a dead account. And just make sure all your branding is the same across all your channels. I think that's the mistake that a lot of people make, and it's so obvious. You make sure that your bio, your tagline, and your visuals are exactly the same across all your socials, so everyone can identify you like really, really easily. And also, I always sort of tell my clients, like, what is your signature style? If you need to have a signature style, so people can spot you easily, and they can go, oh, that's that girl with this, or that's that guy with who does that. And it, because there are so many, like thousands of people, thousands of experts in the world, that you need to stand out, but stand out like authentically, and what's genuine to you. Don't look contrived and fake, but you have to have that balance.
Yeah. So I talk about that a lot with my clients, is that you just have to be authentic in everything that you do in your business. If you're wanting to build this personal brand, if you are trying to portray what you think your audience or social media want from you, one, you won't be able to keep it up because it's not true. But secondly, people won't connect with it because you can feel, when something is not authentic. And I think it's so important to just focus on showing yourself and all of yourself and all of your little quirks. If you're into, I don't know, train spotting, then like tell the world you're into it. Don't be afraid to share all of your little nuances, because that's actually how people get to know, like, and trust you, and they really build that relationship. And I think it's so true in your PR journey as well, is being completely truthful and honest in everything that you put out there. And I also think, going back to something you said a little while ago about strategy, it's really important to actually have sort of a goal and a purpose and a strategy to what you're doing, because, for many years, actually, I didn't have a strategy when it came to PR. And I was, being approached quite often for comment on certain things, or I was approaching, and I got a lot of press and media. I've been in a lot of publications, but I was doing it all with absolutely zero strategy. And looking back, some of the things didn't have anything to do with what I was actually wanting to be known for. And yes, it's great to be able to say on your socials, oh, look, I'm in this today and whatever, but it's all about having the same message, like you've just said about your platforms, the same message continuously, as many places as you can have it. And that's what PR really is all about. So
Yeah.
if you suddenly have this like crazy off the chart, you know, publication that has absolutely nothing to do, that could potentially be more damaging to your PR strategy than not accepting it at all. And
Yeah.
and again, I think that's something that people don't really think. They think it's
No.
just about getting the visibility and getting as many places as you possibly can.
Yeah.
But it's a waste of your time. It's got it's not
Exactly,
going to add
and
any value.
it just looks random. It's actually even worse now than it was for that, because back in the day, you know, like back in the day, there wasn't any online coverage. But everything now, if you get anything in print, it automatically most of the time goes online,
Yeah.
and I've had clients go rogue, and they call me up and they're like, oh my god, I did this photo shoot with this newspaper and I did an interview. I'm like, what's it about? It's like, oh, I thought it would be a good fit and it hasn't really worked out. And I think, and I'm like, okay. And there was this one story and the headline was so bad. It was a group of women and they were obsessed with something. I won't say what because I don't want like people to sort of like know, but
Yeah.
to protect that person, and that is still at the top of Google after like 4 or 5 years, and
Um,
and it just will not get knocked down, and it's such a shame because they just didn't think, they thought, oh, it's fine, they didn't really think about what it is they were doing,
yeah.
and it's obvious to me where it was going to go. It was really obvious, but they just thought it was a really nice glamorous photo shoot, and yes, I do this sort of treatment or whatever, and I had this photo shoot, and without sparing the details, and it just the photo alone, forgetting the headline, the photo looked awful. It just actually went against everything that they believe in their business, actually, and it just, it's such a shame, but you know that happens, and you just have to just work really hard to get the right type of press then.
And to, yeah, like you say, push that down the
To
Google and
push it down, yeah.
yeah. So obviously it would be amazing if we could all afford to have somebody like you in our corner so it can see these elements that might not be the best fit for us. But I imagine that your fees potentially could be quite high because you're so amazing at what you do. So if we couldn't afford to come and actually just, have your agency act for us, are there any other ways that we could work with you potentially, or just have the support for us to be doing these things ourselves in the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a Facebook group for one thing, which is a great little community and an amazing resource because I share lots of tips.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to be launching a VIP strategy day, which is very exciting. I'm very excited
Amazing.
about this. I think I showed you a little bit of a preview of
Yes,
my site.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm very much looking forward to it.
So that's going to be like, I'm so excited about that. And then I have a couple of free resources which I'll share the links with you guys, and you can download some templates and a few bits like that to sort of get you started as
Yeah.
a base.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the show notes for you as well. But I think that's such an asset to have. Like you say, you share some templates just for email templates. And I think that's one of the most scariest bits, where you sit there and you're looking at your email account, you open up a fresh new email and it's a blank white screen and you're thinking, oh my God, how do I even start the email?
Mm-hmm.
Just what sort of vibe do you need in this email and also to stand out from the crowd, because these people must get so many pitches every day.
Oh, like literally, some of them may get up to 1,000 emails a day. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
it's funny. It happened. Someone said it to me a few times. They said, "Oh, you're the PR that journalists come to first." I was like, oh, "I'll take that." I need to trademark that. But that's when I know when to. Obviously, I've been in the industry a very long time, and I know like when to contact my contacts, and I know when they're going into their conferences, and they will
Yeah.
have different timetables and things. But you, just by starting as a base to have some templates. I mean, sometimes I don't even start the email with a "How are you?" or "Hope you're well." People don't have time to read those. hi, how are yous do they read?
Yeah.
You know, so sometimes the shorter the better, like keep it really, really punchy. But then my templates are a bit more comprehensive because they sort of like go into, okay, well, if you've got a news story, this is this. If you've got a product launch, this is this. Or if you've got an event, then kind of like this is this. And then you can sort of expand and elaborate within there, because obviously you'll have to have some detail. But I'll be honest, I'm not even a fan of a press release now.
Okay.
You know, who wants to open a PDF or have like a really long, like, you know, like loads of long text underneath the in your email? Just people, it's just, if they've got the facts, they've got the information, and they know how to contact you, it's all there, but it's really, really concise. It's not waffly. I think the worst thing that a lot of people in the industry can do is just like waffle on. So, oh, I'm thrilled to announce this. People do not want to hear that. Literally, like, you see journalists like rolling their eyes, and you know, it just like cut to the chase. And if they're interested, they'll get back to you, and of course, follow up. But don't like bombard an editor after 24, 48 hours. Like, I'd say give them a week, because we're all busy. Sometimes you're like, you know, you sort of like flag things in your email to think, oh, I'll come back to that. So kind of like give people a week, and then you sort of like give it a little nudge. But if people aren't getting back to you, then you know they either don't want it or it's just not right. So that's the consideration, you know, for your listeners, just to sort of bear in mind. And because ultimately you want to be building a relationship with these contacts, and inadvertently you'll be having the doors closed before they're even opened if you're like harassing people almost to that extent.
Yeah. One thing I think to keep in mind as well is when you mentioned PDF, I know that actually an email from a new contact with an attachment actually is much more likely to go into the spam folder and therefore potentially never even be seen. So yeah, I agree to not have any external attachments and just have the text in there and make it really clear and simple. I think it's a great way. So if people are wanting to send out, they've got your templates, which is a huge help, and they're sending out, like you say, you think it's always really important to chase up?
Yeah, you can follow up. The follow up is great, but I guess if you're inexperienced, you're not going to know whether you've got a good story or not. So I will know that. But I think if you've done your, you know, due diligence, you've got to kind of talk. You know, if you've done your research, and then you know you follow that process or protocol, then you can, you know, be safe of mind that you know you've got a good story, whether it's to do with the timing of what's going on in the news, or you've got like a good link or good hook for something. Then you know, and you know, so let's just say you're an expert in your space and you think, oh my god, I know this person will really, you know, love to sort of maybe have some tips or advice and comments from me about this subject. And if they've not covered it before, then, you know, fire them off an email and just see if they're interested. Don't do it at the end of the day, or if you do it at the end of the day, that'll then happen tomorrow, but then it might get lost and they might forget. So I'd probably do that like in the morning, and then just, you know, follow up. But if people don't get back to you a second time, and you've left it a bit of a gap, that's why you need to prepare, and not just do things like, you know, shotgun and in the moment because you think, oh, this is relevant right this second, and then there's a panic because you bombard them with another couple of emails. Then that's not a good strategy to do. So just kind of like bear that in mind when you're pitching.
And talking about sort of timeframes and things, when you have something, for instance, for Christmas, and it's a great Christmas gift or whatever it might be, they're actually all looking at Christmas in like sort of now time, September, August time, aren't they? So it's really important to always be, how many months would you say ahead? 4 to 5 months ahead?
Long leads, I'd say up to 5 months ahead.
5 months.
I had a Christmas cracker call in the other day.
Did
I
you?
was like, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's there's a saying in there that media industry is called Christmas in July. So Christmas happens in July. That's where the Christmas press days happen. And then they'll start working on, the long leads start working straight away on Christmas. So don't be pitching a summer story to a long lead in August, because it's just not relevant at all.
Yeah. I think, again, that's something that people don't necessarily think about, that actually they're preparing all of their content months ahead of time. So if you have something that's, you think is going to be a great story at Christmas or anything like that, then be thinking about it actually in the summer and vice versa. And that really increases your chances of having that story picked up. Because if you send it, in November 24, they're not going to keep it on file for Christmas 25, are they? So it's just
Absolutely
a dead,
not.
Absolute 0 points to sending.
I think people also assume that onlines are like very, very reactive, and they are, but there are different departments. So if you're in, say, the news, obviously that has a very like real time, strategy. But with some features, then you can be working on an online feature 3 months in advance, or you're waiting for it for 2-3 months. But that's just because they have a schedule, and because they're let's say talk about, say, stylists, for instance, that they have their online features. Some of those are planned in advance.
Yeah. So if we are, because there's so many, obviously there's the big events that we all know about, Christmas and Valentine's and all of those, but there's also loads of other days, isn't there? And months, there's Pride Month and all of these other things throughout the year. What would you say is the easiest way for me, for instance? I'm going to think about, my story and the message that I'm trying to get out there, and I want to utilize some of these days and events that happen. How would you advise me to review my story and try and find the link, and create that press lead that I'm going to be sending out? Have you got any advice around that?
Depends on what story that you're wanting to hone in on. Let's say if it's like your backstory, then you could talk about, maybe adversity and the, say, confidence and how you came through that really difficult period and to where you are now. Then I would look at some of the mental health awareness days just to hook onto it, and it might not be that they actually mention any awareness day in your story, but you just use it as relevance sometimes. So it's like how you kind of package up your pitch. It's not necessarily you're pitching this to it's not that they're going to be covering the story for that specific awareness day, but it just kind of land naturally in that month or week or whatever awareness week, month, or whatever it is. It'll just naturally land in that period because it just has relevance around that time, and that's just how you box off different topics throughout the calendar.
I love that. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been amazing. There's so much value in there for people who are wanting to start their PR journey. As I've said, I will add all of the links for you guys to be able to find Rebecca and connect with her on her socials, and the freebie, the templates that she mentioned, I'll put them in the notes for you as well. But yes, go forth and get PR, guys. Go and get the word out there. And Rebecca can be there. Her group is fantastic, and she can, really share the tips and advice for you to make it a success. So thank you again for joining us, and I will see you next week.
I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, which was brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders podcast. If you're running a small business and you're dreaming big, then Xero is here to help make those dreams a reality. Xero is all about supporting women like you, who are not just running businesses, but are also changing the game. So whether you're just starting out or you're scaling up, join a global community of female founders who trust Xero to manage their finances efficiently. Just visit refer.xero.com/female founders to learn more. But for now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this episode with all the incredible female founders you know. And together, let's change what it means to be a female founder in today's world.